Our next speaker will be joining us via video, and that is Shamil Shalms. He has worked for Pakistan's leading English newspaper, The News, and has contributed articles for Dawn, Newsline, and other Pakistani magazines and newspapers. He now writes for Deutsche Welle, the German international broadcaster.
Respected House, distinguished speakers. First of all, let me apologize for not being able to participate in the debate in person. Nothing would have pleased me more than being there among you and speaking to you directly. I feel extremely honored to be part of this debate. Writing and recording this speech while traveling was not easy, but I still wanted to share some views with you. Let me not waste more time and share my views on today's topic. Is Islam compatible with Western values? I wrote a commentary last year, right after the Cologne sexual assaults, which stirred much debate in the media. The attackers were mostly from the Middle Eastern and North African backgrounds. I argued that Islam is not compatible with Western values, but let me say it loud and clear that when I say Islam, I mean political Islam. Political Islam is not compatible with the West, but the irony is that political Islam is a product of the West's foreign policies, its interventions in the Muslim majority countries. Actually, it would be right to say that political Islam emerged as a revolt against the liberal West. I come from a family of Muslim clerics, but most of them were very secular people. They belonged to a generation of Muslims who were detached from politics and worked relentlessly for the downtrodden and the underprivileged people. They believe in a benign, mystical version of Islam which embraced people from all religions, races, and ethnicities. Compatibility with the West, however, was never their concern because this is a new debate, a modern narrative. But I understand why this subject is catching more and more people's attention. With the rise of terrorist attacks perpetrated by militant Muslims across Europe and in the US, the West is eager to know why all this is happening. Why is Islam against the West? It is a divisive debate, I must say. It perpetuates the us versus them idea. Both sides, the West and political Islamists, perpetuate this idea. And it suits the interests of certain economic classes that thrive on this narrative. Yes, political Islam is not compatible with the West. In fact, it is against everything the West stands for. And here I'm not talking about Western capitalism because political Islam is certainly not against it. We have seen it collaborating with it on numerous occasions. Political Islam is actually not compatible with the humanistic values which the West believes in. And whatever the speakers on the other side say about it, that mystical Islam or the real Islam is what Islam is all about, the truth is that political Islam is the true face of the Muslim world now. The progressive Muslim societies of the 1960s and the 1970s do not exist anywhere. The Pakistan of Ghaffar Khan, the frontier Gandhi, and the India of Abul Kalam Azad have been transformed into something totally different. And I'm not just talking about some groups, some militant organizations. A majority of the common people abhor Western values. The extremism has risen manifold in most Muslim countries in the past few years, or decades, let's say. The persecutions of minorities have increased, the subjugation of women has spiked. It is the real face of these societies, whether we like it or not. But the problem the West faces today is that Islamic extremism has taken roots in their societies too. How can you allow misogyny in the West? How can you allow certain people and groups calling for jihad against the West? And I believe that is why we are having this debate today. Otherwise, the West was not bothered when this Frankenstein was being created and nurtured in Afghanistan and the Middle East. When Pakistani military dictator Ziaul Haq was collaborating with the CIA against the Soviets in Afghanistan and Islamizing his own country at the same time. When the West was supporting hardline Islamists against the socialist or secular rulers in the Middle East. But now the menace has spread all over Europe too. After its destructive role in the Muslim countries, the political Islam that the West helped nurtured is now threatening the peace and stability of Europe and the US. The secular foundations of Europe are under threat, as we also see an alarming rise of right-wing anti-Islamist groups at the same time. And now we ask this question again and again, whether Islam is compatible with the West. The secular people, both in the Muslim majority countries and the West, are rightly worried about the situation. The fanatics want to impose a version of Islam that is against all fundamental human rights. Therefore, the fight against political Islam is a common fight for all secular and peace-loving people around the world. Radical Islam can never be compatible with the Western values, and we shouldn't even try to make it compatible. And of course, it is naive to expect that by bombing Syria and Iraq or Afghanistan, radical Islam can be defeated. In fact, it will only worsen the situation. Islam, like all other religions, is not a monolithic system. It has many layers and many interpretations. But as I said earlier, it is political Islam that dominates now, and that is reality. So whoever says that political Islam, or the groups that believe in it, or the people who have embraced it, do not represent Islam are confusing the situation. They do as much as those do who believe in a secular interpretation of Islamic texts. But they are in a minority now. So I would like to conclude by saying what I have thus far argued, that Islam means political Islam in today's world, and it is against everything the West stands for and has stood for over centuries. It is also against everything that the liberal Muslims have believed in for centuries. It is not compatible and will never be compatible with humanism. And the apologists in the West and also in the Muslim countries who refuse to admit this as reality should be confronted on all forums, because they are strengthening a very dangerous narrative. Their narrative is that we must turn a blind eye to the atrocities by harping that militant groups do not represent Islam. Probably they didn't 40 years ago, but now they do. Thank you very much.